Hello everyone, Michael the Mechanical here. So, last night I did a stream, I was struggling to get video, it wasn't working. I actually got to apologize a little bit because I got to go to an appointment. And this backpack is sort of killing me, but I'm putting on the strap to support me a little bit. This is a V6 Pajero, this is Dad's car, has been driving around every day. And it keeps leaking coolant in the same spot. Now the parts aren't here anymore. I did take pictures of it, so if I make a video, I've got images. But essentially, like water in the coolant, the gallery is from mostly just pulling off the valley, but that's where the water was leaking. Now, if you can see, the bolts are down there. There's a bit of a water pocket where water was building up. There's all this oil all over the place that drags down all the stuff. Anyway, the reason this gallery always gets a coolant leak is because of a few factors, okay? So, one of the factors is when you put in the pipe that goes in the back here, and then you stick it in the hole, it's got an O-ring seal. If you replace the O-ring seal, it will seal to a certain extent, but it won't seal enough on its own. So you're meant to put in this blue stuff in front of the seal and behind the seal. You push it in, and then what you got to do is put a whole bunch on, and then you have to get your finger literally around it in this small space where all the water is, and you got to literally, feed it in there and push it up against the pipe. Otherwise, it just won't create a good enough viable seal that it won't work. So that was one factor for why this is leaking. It was a terrible installation. There was another factor. Now, if you notice, this coolant gallery is partially rusty here. That's what the original color is. And then it's nice and silver in here. So when my dad did the job he did, and he decided he was going to paint this, he actually got paint where the seal had a sealant on it. And because the sealant ripped the paint off, it compromised the sealing surfaces. You need metal-to-metal contact to the sealant. You can't have paint to sealant contact, or else it just isn't going to work. So, for making this not happen again, what we're going to do is put a threaded fitting into the backing plate of the water pump. So you have the water pump in the front here, and they have a backing plate where the tube goes in. So you have like a hole like that. It's going to be tapped to a BSP fitting of some sort, and we're going to put a braided hose in. And the original two pipes at the back that we normally have there are still going to be there, but we're going to add a bolt to release the assembly so we can always pull it off if we have to. There's only one problem with that. Getting in here requires still pulling off the valley, so it's a little bit pointless. But the idea is, if that rubber hose, braided hose needs replacing, it can be replaced. But we shouldn't have to pull this apart ever again after doing what we do, because there's no way for it to leak other than out the front. If it leaks out the front, that assembly can be rebuilt, replaced, the drill. So what we're going to do, to do all this work that we've just done, you have to drop the AC compressor to get the covers off, to get the, what's that thing called, to get this housing out. And that's for the fan. So the fan has to come out. And there's the fan there. That fan is broken, and Dad can't even afford to replace it, which is a bit stupid. Then you have to make sure all your timing marks are going to line up when you reassemble it, because literally I put gold mark here, say this is the tooth that was aligned there. And then I did the same thing here, so that's the tooth that aligns there. So essentially, there should be a marking on the crank that says this is the mark that aligns here. That mark right there aligns to the cover, which is right there. To get this right, guys, what you need to do when you do this is know what tools to use, what to do. What he's thinking of is there's two ways he could do that fitting in the pipe. One, he could buy a fitting and weld it in there. Then he'll never have that risk of it leaking at this point where it's welded. Number two, he can just tap it and put a fitting in there. The thing could still corrode and cause issues, but can't really change much, can you? Not with that. The only problem with welding it is there's still going to be that bypass goes up to the weld and then it will stop. It could corrode the weld. it'll be a pocket for compromise. So it'd be better to go with the threaded fitting, because then you can put sealant on it, push it in, and the coolant's going to take years and years and years and years and years and lots of kilometers to get past all that sealant. So I hope someone learned something from this video, or understood anything that would help someone else in the future with one of these sort of engines, one of these sort of problems where the coolant keeps leaking. These engines that go in here, the engine on here, the 4056 that can go in the Pajeros, because that is a Pajero, as well as this one being a Pajero, that one won't leak. It's less likely to have a problem, and if it did have a problem, you can access it very easily. This one requires a lot of money to be spent to access it. So other than that, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I got to go to an appointment. And one last thing, one of these costs about $400 to replace or rebuild. I got to go now, guys. I got to figure out what my next steps are going to be and what I'm going to do, because I don't want to work on this, because I got reasons to not want to work on this. But I also got reasons to have to put it back